it's been started in 2013, so some of you may be aware of it, and it has changed a little bit recently as it's come under Innovate UK funding. So for those of you who are aware of NATEP, you'll notice that there are some differences, and for those who are new to NATEP, we'll take you through the whole process. The best things and the unique things about NATEP remain the same. And I think that's really the important thing to take away. But it is now an Innovate UK programme. So those of you who've applied for Innovate UK funding will see some of the Innovate UK processes in amongst it. On to the next. Louise, it doesn't seem to be moving on. So if we could move on to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this phase of NATEP, which is actually the third phase of NATEP, is there's 10 million of grant funding for projects. So that's run over 4 calls, about £2.5 million per call for the project, with a maximum 150k grant per project and a maximum £300,000 project size. If you have 2 industry partners, 150k of grant would take you to £300,000 for the project because it's 50-50 funded. But if you're teamed up with a university or other, it won't be quite that amount. I won't go into details now, but we can explain, and the technology managers will be able to support you through that part of the process. The maximum duration time for the project are 18 months. This has always been true in NATEP, and I think you'll be familiar with that. But what is unique about NATEP is the fact that you don't just get the funding through the programme, you also get mentoring. You get mentoring from the technology managers, a lot of whom are on the call today, so will be able to help me with answering your questions if you have any at the end. But the technology managers are allocated to you from the moment that you first come to speak to us and you have a concept, you have an idea that you think would be a good project. So those technology managers will help you with your bid, your application, into the process, into the NATEP process, and I'll go through those details in a little bit in a moment. But they will also help you once you've been given the grant. They'll help you to get ready for that project to start. They'll help you as the project runs in terms of understanding your eligible costs and getting your claims into Innovate UK. And we as a programme team will help support the dissemination of your technology, the marketing of your technology afterwards through our websites, through any events, showcases, and our NATEP brochure. If you go to the next slide, please, Louise. So the objectives of NATEP are to use the existing model for NATEP. The model has worked really well. It's helped over 150 projects with over 300 companies that have come through the process. And so it's to using that model to deliver the programme. This particular phase will be looking to have about 60 projects in total within that 10 million of grant funding, a little bit more, depends on the demand in the system. And the goal is to strengthen the technology development of the UK to really make the UK competitive in terms of the technologies that we have and what we can bring to the supply chain. There is a desire and a need to create and sustain jobs in the industry because jobs in aerospace are high value in the UK, and it is a good opportunity for UK PLC to export our technological capabilities to the rest of the world. It is quite important that any technologies you develop are in line with the Aerospace Technology Institute strategy. Details of their strategy are available on the website, the ATI website, and also you can talk to our technology managers who are very familiar with the ATI strategy, can tell you whether you fit in or not. The strategy is quite broad, but it's quite important that the technologies have an application in civil aerospace. So it can be process product, it can be ground station, it can be drone, but it has to have an application in civil aerospace. So, for example, if it's a purely space technology, it won't be able to come through to NATEP. But if there are applications within civil aerospace, then that could potentially be a project for us. Next slide, please, Louise. Okay, so one of the key elements of NATEP is that it's to support SMEs. So the lead company of any project must be an SME. Their other partners in the project can be anything. They don't have to be an SME, but everybody has to be UK based. Funds can only go to UK companies. It must be a collaboration. You must have at least 2 partners, but one of those partners could be a university, or you could both be industrial partners. You could have 3 or 4 partners if you want, if that's what you need for the project. They must be industrial research, so we're aiming at TRL 3 to about 6. But again, I'd suggest you come and talk to us if you're not sure, because the lines are not quite as firm as that, but it's in general those sorts of levels. And you must have a plan to develop the technology and to exploit it in the UK. This is taxpayers' money from the UK, so they're looking for the benefits ultimately to the UK economy from the project to be based on manufacturing or development in the UK. And there are more criteria that are available on the NATEP website. But as I say, if you're not sure, come and talk to us. We're happy to talk to you and give you more details as required. Next slide, please, Louise. So, the application process, and this is where we're really helping you. So it may feel like a long time, the process, but you get a lot of support from our technology managers, but also from industry representatives throughout the process. So the first stage is the outline proposal form. This is a relatively light touch form. If any of you done Innovate UK before, you'll notice it's 10 questions, similar to any Innovate UK application. But in the outline form, we don't ask for any appendices. We really want a light touch. What is your concept? If at that stage you're not sure who your collaboration partners could be or who your end user might be, don't worry about that. We will help you with that. It's really getting your idea on paper, and we will support you through that. So once you've submitted that to us, we get our industry panels to review your application, and they're able to give advice, perhaps find you collaboration partners or end users, give you advice on your application and whether it fits in with the ATI strategy. And they will give you feedback. The technology managers will support that feedback, and that will be used to help you write your full proposal. The full proposal form is the same 10 questions again, but there are some appendices, so there's a bit more detail. That is again reviewed by the industry panel, but also this time you as a project team would present your project to that industry panel. Come and see the panel, or currently do it as a webinar to present to the panel. And this gives the panel the opportunity to ask you questions that are not covered in the application. And that's quite useful in terms of making sure that your application really is the best that it can be. You're then given feedback from that, and then you're free to join to submit into the UK Innovate UK IFS system. You could bypass that and go straight into the IFS system, but you miss all the opportunity for that feedback and the development that the technology managers and the industry panels can give you. So it is a shorter route, but the longer route through us will give you more support and should make sure that your application is as good and as formed as it needs to be with the goal of getting funding. Next slide, please, Louise. So talking about the calls, I've mentioned we're looking for the outline forms now. The deadline for that is the 31st of May. That's for the autumn call 2020 NATEP process. And that will be project starting 1st of March, 1st of April 2021. As I mentioned, you can go directly into Innovate UK. Their call is open now and will close on the 17th of June. And that's for projects that will start on the 1st of November, 1st of December. If you want to go into that call, or either who's going to be able to tell you about his experience of NATEP. Stephen, thank you.
Hello, I'm Stephen Stanley. I'm one of the National Technology Managers. If you could move on to the next slide, please, Louise. So I'm one of several technology managers based around the UK. One of 10 technology managers currently. We are distributed around the UK, as I mentioned. I personally am based up in Cheshire, and we have some based over in the northeast, around about the southwest and the southeast as well. So we have quite a broad variety of networks and technical backgrounds. Myself, I'm from materials and optics. We have colleagues that are from backgrounds in terms of procurement, from the Navy background, from IT and defence. We've got quite a broad variety between us and a very broad range of networks and end users that we engage with. We all have experience with small and large government-funded projects and managing them projects through, whether that be European level, collaboration across multi-nations, or within the UK and obviously specifically Innovate UK Fund. If you could move to the next slide, please. So the question is, obviously, you're aware that we provide the funding, that's 150k as Harry has mentioned, and we provide the mentoring, so that is the unique part of NATEP and what we provide. So mentoring, what do we actually provide? You are assigned a technology manager. We will be the same technology manager throughout the duration of your project, and the term that was described to me when I first started is, and it is a very good fit, is as a critical friend. So the idea is that we are supportive. We are a friend of the project regardless of where it comes from. If it's come to the NATEP route or direct into Innovate UK, we are assigned and supportive to the project throughout. We support each beneficiary and the project as a whole. Obviously, we want to see taxpayer money being used to the best potential, but we want to see each individual project partner benefit as best as they can from whatever mentoring, whatever introductions we can provide, where the funding comes from and how to best get the best result out of that funding. At the same time, we are there to be critical. I believe we're not a true friend unless we can be openly critical of the routes that are being taken. So if we start to see things within the project management, within the project direction, or just with engagement between projects, we are quite abrupt and blunt in terms of raising them. We like to see them being resolved in a constructive manner, so we can provide constructive input into there to ensure that any issues can be resolved, that things are taken in the right direction and that things don't break down or become awry too early. But it is there. We are a critical friend, unconditionally supportive, but at the same time unconditionally critical throughout. Next slide, please. So what does the mentoring actually provide? Which I've said that we're a true friend, but what do we actually provide to the project? So if we're engaged at the very beginning, when we come to the project formation, we can help to make introductions to partners, whether that be research organisations, other commercial partners, universities or end users. We have a broad range of networks between us. We are able to engage with a number of them and do regularly engage with a number of them, companies or institutes already within familiar or not familiar with NATEP. We can support with the structure of a project plan, developing how you may go around the risk mitigation part of the application, how you do the project management, ensuring that the structure of the project fits in line with Innovate UK requirements. Just ensuring that everything is in line and your expectations of what this project is going to be are in line with what Innovate UK would require to ensure that is all in order. We also provide critical review. Even before you go to the industry panels, we provide an independent review of your application, the project as it is. So as Harry has mentioned, does it fit in with the ATI strategy? Is it really the kind of thing you're going to be able to do for 150k of grant and 300k of costs? Have you got the right partners? Are you going to be able to get exploitation? And that is a big key to ensure that exploitation is there. We also provide, obviously, a friendly support at the presentation stage. So you come to do a presentation to the industry panel. We are a face that you are already aware of, and you will meet us as you come into the presentation, and we sit on that panel as well to be able to provide that friendly engagement. And also we provide that feedback. So we will engage with you, providing that feedback from the industry panel. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So the next part is, what does mentoring provide actually post-award? So assuming you've been successful, hopefully you've been successful in your application stage, what do you actually get from the mentoring from NATEP after that? So initially, you will get the pre-launch meetings. So before you can start your project, you will have to get several parts of documentation together for Innovate UK. NATEP and the technology manager will have a pre-launch meeting with you, go through what is required, go through the kind of dates that are required for them and deadlines, provide you with any templates, advice in terms of getting them together, where to get them from, etc. We also provide some IP and risk training. Whether that is earlier on to support the documentation you will need a collaboration agreement, for example, but also some of the risk training to get your risk assessments up to date for that launch with Innovate UK. And then ongoing throughout the project, we will be there as support throughout the Innovate UK meetings, so we can support you with your claims, how they are processed, what is an eligible cost, what is ineligible, any cost you may not have considered as being eligible and what you may be able to bring in, but also through the other processes with Innovate UK, whether that be a change request, changes of beneficiary partners, etc. We can go through them kind of procedures and support you through them. We can also support with end users and customer engagement, not just making them introductions, but also how to really engage with them on a level in terms of what is being asked for by the end user, where to go next, how to deal with possible requests from end users that are slightly outside of scope, etc. And they're the kind of things we are very familiar with doing throughout NATEP and help you provide. But also the engagement, so we can make introductions to potential customers, new end users, etc. throughout the project. And then we've got guidance, so supporting guidance through project delivery when we start to see there may be problems coming through. And if you have problems that you want to discuss or just issues that you're coming up against that you want to discuss through, we can offer supporting guidance through that. The risk management is obviously one that we offer the training on as well. We can ensure that the risk management is up to scratch if you're starting to have issues there, especially with the Innovate UK assessment. And we can also possibly sit there as some kind of advice and guidance through issue resolution, whether or not that between beneficiaries, end users, etc. One of the big ones that we obviously do provide, and it is quite unique to NATEP, is the exploitation support and the dissemination. So we can support with the exploitation planning, which is key for Innovate UK, but also with dissemination. NATEP have regular dissemination events, allowing you to present your project to key end users, possible customers, other project partners for future exploitation of the project. And then they can continue after the project is completed, and there will still be introduction to grow through that. Okay, next slide, please. So in terms of the support, it's one of the things that we do drive as being quite key of NATEP, is that this support is unique to the beneficiary. So we support each partner individually, obviously the project as a whole, but any partner that has an individual unique partner to engage with NATEP with, whether that just be a customer of the one partner that isn't really a customer of the whole project, or whether or not that be specific risk or IP training or challenges, etc. And that is really driven by the project partners and where they feel that they would be best supported by NATEP. And as you can imagine, that we have quite a range of companies that engage with NATEP, from very micro, small SMEs in single person, up to sites in excess of 100 or 200 people. And we support them very differently. Obviously, their challenges with a funded grant and their business challenges are quite different, and we engage with them on an individual basis to ensure we can provide the best support possible. And the projects range quite extensively as well, whether we go from a technology-based project or a composite-based project that's looking at a material, and then it's highly technical from that side and a lot of material resource, to very labour-intensive projects which are software-orientated. And again, the kind of challenges and the support that NATEP offer to them different projects can vary quite considerably. And then for the next one, it does vary quite significantly when for what each one needs. For each partner, whether it be just dealing with Innovate UK procedures, if it's a partner that's never dealt with Innovate UK before, or larger government grants or large government funding even, then that can be actually quite daunting and an obstacle. So we can support that activity. Alternatively, the end users and the customer and the business, and whether that be the engagement or introductions to companies they would never be able to get an introduction to otherwise, that again is something that we can offer. And we are there to support in whichever way possible. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I'll hand you over now to one of our project partners who has completed and hopefully discuss how NATEP has benefited and what experience he had with it.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay.
Yep.
I'll just carry on talking regardless if not. My name's Mike Sloan. I'm director at TCS in Devon. We're an SME that specialises in composite materials, and this is the publicity slide from our project that we've just finished. So it was an 18-month NATEP programme, concluded end of February. So we started back in September 2018. It was led by TCS. We're an SME. Project partners were Cobham Aerospace Connectivity and the University of Exeter, so 3 project partners. In a nutshell, our project was all about improving aerospace communication systems. So effectively the antennas that communicate with various satellites, ground systems or other aircraft. My role was the project management, the technical lead for the composite element. So I was making a technical box. That's that picture on the sort of left-hand side. Exeter provided some physics magic, I'll call it. They helped us design something that allowed us to shrink the unit we were making. And then Cobham provided design advice and the communication hardware and systems that went inside. Yeah, so 18-month project, went extremely well. I'm still smiling. I've been through the NATEP machine and out the other side. So hopefully I can relay some of the benefits and successes that we've had in the next couple of slides. If we can move on, please. So highlights. Really, the first and most important thing to mention is it really gives an SME the opportunity to stand at the front and showcase the technology that they've got the expertise in. So in our case, it was composite materials, and we're front and centre of the project. You know, we've got a tier 1 stroke multinational company alongside us. We've got a part of the Russell Group, universities, top 10 in the UK on the other side of us, and we're leading and driving forward the project. And for us to showcase and shout about and do what we do is a real benefit to me. That allowed us to demonstrate our business capability to a potential customer. So you've got 18 months to show what you can do, not talk about what you can do, but actually do it. And I looked at that as an 18-month interview for a supplier to potential customer. And it's really useful in that regard that you can work alongside companies and really get to understand how one another work and deliver systematically through the projects what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. The NATEP program was really useful for us because there's a planned program of work from the start. Everyone loves doing R&D and novel science, but to have a structure from the very outset was extremely useful in that at least we had a minimum 3 months forecast direction of what we wanted to do and where we were going. That's not to say the plan wouldn't change. NATEP were very helpful in changes to work because there's plenty of problems along the way. But having that structure was really important. Novel ideas I touched on. The opportunity to work on a novel idea is great. You know, it's what drives us and the partners that we were working with. But those novel ideas don't have to be in the same of expertise. We had engineers working alongside antenna specialists, working alongside physicists, and typically we may not actually always speak to each other, but NATEP allowed the physicists and the engineers to have a chat, and we've developed something really interesting. So that was a big plus for me, and the opportunity of raising the profile of a small to medium enterprise. We're actually a micro SME, but for us to be able to be part of this webinar today, we have the opportunity to present at 2 or 3 showcase events with big audiences, far reaching in terms of us talking about what we could do, what we could offer. it's free marketing as far as I'm concerned. You know, you've got to put it in, but there's a lot of profile raising that you can take advantage of with the program. And in that note, we are continuing. Our previous project was NATEP 2, and we're applying for NATEP 3. So I think that's a thumbs up from us that it's gone well. Next slide, please, which I think would be my last, is the next one. Yeah, so our experience, what is NATEP to me as a small business that's got to make things, get them out the door and make money? Well, it's supportive. That's definitely true. I feel it's a great start for UK R&D programs. I've been involved in NATEP, Innovate UK programs, Technology Strategy Board as it was, and also at EPSRC. So we have quite a bit of experience in funding mechanisms, and NATEP definitely is a very, very good start because you get the support and you're not just sort of pushed out on your own to crack on with the project. That is really done through the technology managers. So we were, unfortunately, Bill, our technology manager, was allocated us, not the other way around. We were thrown onto Bill at the start 18 months ago. Well, before that actually, because he gave us a lot of guidance on applying for the project and what would sound good to the peer review panel, what would make our application more robust, etc., etc. So we had a lot of help, probably 3-4 months preceding our application. But then when the project was running, we had Bill at our door every quarter saying, what have you done? How have you done it? How are the costs? So we were accountable, and that's really important because you have to stand up and justify how the work's going. But along the same sort of lines, as well as having to report in, you did have experience who was independent and stood back from the project to look at how you were working together and give you independent advice, and I found that invaluable. All of that wrapped under the mentoring to help us through the admin. So the claims process, you have to put financial claims in every quarter. That needs help, certainly to start with, in addition to all the admin and reporting that you have to do for the project. One particular feature of our project is we had micro SMEs working with sort of tier ones, and those companies work in completely different ways. They work at their own speeds, they have their own decision-making processes, and that isn't always balanced. So you've got support from a technology manager to make sure that communication happens as best it can and identify problems potentially before they arrive. Also throughout the project, our technology manager, Bill, was great in introducing us to his industrial contacts, people he'd met that thought would benefit from our ideas or our capabilities. And that has spun off into me talking to X amount of other people that I wouldn't have otherwise, but also applying for another NATEP because of the success of this one. So, yeah, very positive program. I could definitely recommend it and would happily take any questions from people, either at the end of this webinar or contact me directly. It's absolutely fine. My details are on the first slide. I think that's me done. That was okay? If I could just check the next slide, please, Louise. Yes. Okay, I'm not sure who I'm handing back to.
Hi, sorry. Hi, Mike. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. So I put several slides here at the back. I wasn't going to read through them because the slide pack will be coming out to all of you afterwards. But I put a few slides in on the feedback that we've had from people who've been involved in NATEP, either in phase 1 or phase 2. The stats are really good in terms of the appreciation that the projects have for the support that they get from the technology managers and from the industry panel. And it's really those two aspects that make NATEP unique. And that is what we wanted to talk to you about today. The funding is important, and clearly that is what you will probably want to dial in to hear about today. But it's the funding and mentoring combination that is unique in NATEP that we offer that we believe will make your projects, first of all, more likely to be funded, and second of all, successful, and ultimately make your company money and take you on a route to exploitation of your technologies. Louise, if you could just scoot on to just the next couple of slides and just go on to the questions. I think we'll move on to questions. And Louise, if you can show the photos of the technology managers slide. If you go on to the next one. If you go on to the next slide, we've got the photos of the sorry, one before. We've got the photos of the technology managers. Most of the technology managers are on the call. They're based throughout the UK, as Stephen mentioned earlier. This slide pack will come out to you, so you don't have to write their contact details down, but here are all their emails. If you want to contact any of them will be happy to help you. It doesn't matter where in the UK you're based, you can contact any of them. We do try and pair you up with a technology manager who is local to you, because that makes more sense for once we come out of lockdown that they'll be able to come and visit you. They are in touch with you. They don't just see you every 3 months like the Innovate UK monitor. They will speak to you in between. They'll come and see you, and they'll answer any questions that you have at any point. They're always available for you as a resource. But that's it from me. If we'd like to go to any questions. For me, technology managers, or for Mike Sloan? So I can see one of the questions. We've got a question from Mike Newsom. Is some grant budget allowed to be allocated toward patent filing? Yes, that's one of the Innovate UK rules, and you are indeed allowed to use some of your grant funding for patent applications. I believe it's 7,000. But Nancy may have a quick look for me while we're looking at that, because I can't look it up. But
my quick understanding is also 7,000.
Yeah. So yeah, you're definitely allowed to use that, Mike. So hopefully that helps answer your question. The UID, unfortunately, that I always go with. So the UID ruling does apply to NATEP as well as it does to any Innovate UK project. There are some companies that will fall foul of this. The technology managers will try and talk to you specifically, individually, but we can only give advice. Innovate UK are the ultimate decision makers on that. If your company is a startup of less than 3 years, you are exempt from this ruling. But it is a challenge that we are facing with some of the projects. So the UID will affect you, but please do come and talk to us and we'll see if we can give any advice. Roland has asked, is the relationship with NATEP and ATI? So the funding for NATEP comes from the ATI funds. So it's effectively an ATI program in as much as any of the other ATI programs, the large strategic program or the SME funding. What's unique about NATEP is how we're run in terms of the technology managers providing support in the field, but it is very much an ATI program funded by the ATI and is part of the ATI portfolio of programs. ATI will direct projects to us if they feel that those projects fit in better with NATEP funding, and indeed we will guide projects to ATI if we think the next level up of funding is more appropriate to them. And some NATEP beneficiaries have moved up into the other larger ATI programs because of their involvement with NATEP. There's an ATI person who sits on every one of the industry panels to give advice on their strategy, but also help best guide the companies in their application. So it's very much part of ATI. Alan has asked, Carrot, can you comment on the relationship with the devolved administration governments, please? Yes, so thank you, Alan, who sits on our panel in Scotland. This funding is available to companies throughout the UK, including the devolved administrations of Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. The funding always comes from the central pot. So the devolved administrations don't put funding in themselves, but they do support the programme. The funding all comes from the central pot. If companies are looking to do projects entirely within the devolved administrations, if a Scottish company was looking to do a project entirely in Scotland, they might find that some of the Scottish enterprise offerings would be different, would give them a different advantage than NATEP. But the moment it becomes a cross-border project, NATEP is certainly the funding stream I would come to. And I would also think that actually the mentoring aspect is not offered in at the same level in any of the devolved administrations. So there's still a benefit of coming to NATEP to talk to us rather than through your local funding. We will help, as Stephen mentioned, tie you up with end users for future exploitation and collaboration partners. So we would really like to have projects from Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, and we work with Invest Northern Ireland, Scottish Enterprise and Aerospace Wales and the Welsh Government to find projects in those areas. Got a question from Nicole. When you said the deadline is 17th, is that for the initial outline proposal? So I'm afraid it is a little bit complicated. So the initial application for the outline, just a very rough outline, is the 31st of May. If you have an application, I'd suggest you get in contact with us, either at one of the emails on the screen now or info@natep.org.uk, and we'll guide you straight away. The 17th of June is for the call that is currently open in Innovate UK. We would do our best to help you with that, but we'll be very limited in our ability to help because it's such a short time frame. So that would be the full application into IFS. If you come to us, our deadline is the 31st of May for the outline proposal, very light touch. We would recommend that you don't spend more than a few hours on the outline proposal, and certainly get in touch with us and get a technology manager to speak with you before you spend too much time on it, because we're really looking to help you and make sure you're maximising your time. For example, if it didn't fit in with the ATI strategy, we could give you some advice on that and hopefully save you some time and help guide you best. I've got a question from Roger saying, how is it related to the Future Flight Programme? It isn't connected with the Future Flight Programme. Sometimes we see projects coming through NATEP that actually would fit in quite well with the Future Flight Programme, but because of the nature of the rhythm of the funding, they've come to NATEP and that seems more suitable. So there is crossover. So a project that could be suitable for future flight could also fit into NATEP and vice versa. But there's no actual official link between the two. If that answers that question. Who is the technology manager for the Northeast? So in the Northeast, we have Luke Helione, who's fourth from the right, and he is based in York, if you'd like to talk to him. We've also got Kat Toon and Glenn Bullen, who are based in or near Preston, and we've got Stephen, who spoke earlier, who's based in Chester. So any of the four of them would be happy to talk to anyone in the Northeast, and you're welcome to contact any of those. Tim says, ran a program some time back and success rate was very good. Can you tell me? The success rate is still very good. I can't give you an exact number, but I can tell you that of the 14 projects that were funded in the last call, 13 of them had success. So if that helps answer that question. Who deals with the East Midlands? Ian Gunnell, whose smiling face, or not so smiling face, is right in the middle, covers the East Midlands. He's based actually near Cambridge and covers the East Midlands and would be able to give you advice. So that's Ian Gunnell at natep.org.uk. I don't know if there's any other questions. Stephen, did you want to add anything before we let everyone?
No, I don't. I think what the only thing I would say is what is key for the timescales is to get in contact as soon as you can, whether it be direct with the technology manager or whether it be into the info at NATEP. Just make contact as soon as we can and we can start them discussions.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, we'll do our very best to help and guide you as to what is going to be best for your company. And the technology managers, as you can see, all their smiling faces there, are happy to help. And Nancy Jardine and I are based at NATEP HQ, or normally in Farnborough, and we're happy to help and guide you as needed. Well, I think that feels like the end of the questions. Thank you very much to, Stroking Crashworthy Seat project fit. Yes, that would fit, Roger. That would absolutely fit. But yeah, please get in contact. The email addresses are on the screen. This slide pack will come out to all of you. But please don't hesitate. If you're not sure, if you think there's a chance your project fits in with NATEP, please get in contact with us as soon as possible, and we'll do our very best to help and guide you. Oh, sorry, that was another question from Roger. 50% of grant is available for SMEs. Okay. Thank you very much for all of your time. I hope that you're all staying safe and well, and that you're adapting to the current new normal. Thank you very much for your time. Take care. Bye-bye.